classmates. We are the Group 5 and we are going to present the government peace treaties with Muslim Filipinos. Southern Philippines has known a long history of armed conflict. Among those regions is Mindanao, where in February 2019, the Bangsamoro people voted to ratify the Bangsamoro Organic Law. This law is a big leap towards peace in Southern Philippines. How did the conflict came about? What are the root causes and who are the main actors and what is it all about? The root cause of armed conflict in Mindanao can be found in the narrative of Mindanao's people who continue struggling for their right to self-determination, a struggle that involves an assertion of their identity and demand of meaningful governance in the face of the national government's failures to realize genuine social progress, peace, and the development in the southern Philippines. Their struggles is also response to historical injustices and grave human rights violations committed against the people in Mindanao. A huge number of victims in the conflict in Mindanao have been ordinary civilians, women and men, young and old, who were either displaced from their communities or it will killed in the crossfire by bullets and bombs that recognize no gender, no religion, creed, or stage. There are two opposing views when it comes to the armed struggles in the Bangsamoro region. Ang panglantaw sa central government kanang ang armed struggle daw nga nahitabo is an act of rebellion against the state, while the other party nag-ingon nga it is a kanang legitimate exercise of the right to self-determination. Sa pila ka tuig nilabay, state has come to recognize the Bangsamoro and the indigenous people nga nagliso jud kuno sila pagkumit sa ilang long-lasting peace dito sa Mindanao. The impact and social cost of the decades-old war to the people and the entire nation have been vicious and costly. Finding peaceful solution to the cause of armed conflict in Mindanao has never been easy, as the toll has affected not just in Mindanao but the entire country. This has discouraged foreign and local investment, and ultimately bleeding the nation's coffer with the previous government spending more on war than on basic social services. Sa sige nila og pangita og kanang peaceful na solution unsaon nila pag-solve ang panghitabo sa ilahang lugar, nagsigi sad sila og gasto nga ang gasto tana is dapat makuan sa mga social services nga which benefits the people in Mindanao. While previous governments tried to resolve this conflict, the root cause is the failure to address the Mindanao's people legitimate struggles for the right to self-determination, dignity and governance, and is a major challenge to achieving sustainable peace in the region. The armed conflict between the government of the Philippines and the armed groups in Mindanao, particularly the Moro Islamic Liberation Front or MILF, is not the only conflict affecting the whole region. The conflict in Mindanao is multifaceted, involving numerous armed groups as well as clans, criminal gangs, and political elites. The main actors to the decades conflict are the Moro Islamic Liberation Front or MILF and the Moro National Liberation Front MNLF and the other groups such as Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighter or BIFF and the Abu Sayyaf, which considered as a bandit group engaged in various criminal activities like kidnapping and bombing, as well as the other armed non-state actors who are consistently in conflict with the central government.
What is Bangsamoro Organic Law or BOL? So it is a law, it will be implemented to establish the new Bangsamoro political entity and provide for its basic structure of government. It includes the expansion of the territory in recognition of the aspirations of the Bangsamoro people. It provides that the Bangsamoro government will have a parliamentary form of government. The key components of the peace process that will determine its eventual success are the passing of the BOL and the plebiscite for its ratification in Bangsamoro territory. And through its roadmaps that outlines a smooth transition leading to the creation of the Bangsamoro government that promises to fulfill the Bangsamoro political entity will in peace, justice, economic development, and self-governance. Bangsamoro Organic Law is also a product not only of political negotiations between the Bangsamoro and the Philippine government through their respective principals and negotiators, but of the peace-building communities, with decades of peacemaking and conflict prevention work and initiatives, both inside and the outside of Mindanao and the Philippines. Next, what has civil societies, particularly initiatives for international dialogue, has done for this peace-building process, and why is it important? So, the IID became more involved into Mindanao peace process when the President Joseph Estrada unleashed an all-out war against MILF in 2000 that resulted into countless deaths, wounded, and massive dislocation of mainly Moro communities. IID's Moro and Mindanao partners sought the assistance of civil society and IID in helping to galvanize a response and projections of their voices and perspectives into the entire peace process. They also established platforms and networks to concretize this accompaniment, forming the Mindanao People's Caucus or the MPC. For us, the enactment of BOL is a major step forward in achieving a just and sustainable peace in Mindanao. If BOL or Bangsamoro Organic Law, well implemented according to its intent and purpose, could finally open a smooth path towards peace, development, and social progress in the south of the Philippines.
The evolution of armed conflict in the Moro front. The continuing struggle in Moro movement is one of the longest armed conflict that happened here in the Philippines. It is an insurgency conflict in the Mindanao region in 1969 to 2019. So who are these Moro people and why this conflict happened? So before the Spaniard discovered the Philippines, the Sultanate already existed in Mindanao. The Moro people have already history in resistance against the foreign rule in more than 400 years. So during the Spanish and Moro conflict, the Spanish repeatedly tried to conquer the Moro Sultanate in Sulu, the Sultanate in Maguindanao, and the Confederation Sultanate in Lanao. These armed conflicts started with the Muslim armed group, which is MNLF, or the Moro National Liberation Front, started to advocate for Moro land. But on the other hand, the Philippine government responded through military, and this is result for numerous deaths. There are thousands of people killed and died in this conflict. So there are historical roots and contemporary causes of the Moro problem. These are, number one is the forcible or illegal annexation of Moro land to the Philippines under the Treaty of Paris in 1898. Number two, military pacification. Number three, impositions of confiscatory and land loss. Four, Indianization or Filipinization of public administrations in Moro land and the destruction of traditional political institutions. Number 5, the government finance or indulge land settlement and migration to Moro land. Number 6, land grabbing. Number 7, cultural inroads against the Moros. Number 8, Cabida massacre. Number 9, Ilaga and military. Number 10 is the government neglect and inaction in Moro protest.
peace process in Mindanao between the Philippine government and the more Islamic liberation front was an important step towards ending for decades in the south of the Philippines. But this initiative now faces many challenges. In March 27, 2014, the Philippine government and the more Islamic Liberation Front signed the Comprehensive Agreement on the Bangsamoro, and the peace process in the southern Philippines carries great geopolitical importance. The more struggle the population of the Philippines is approximately 100 million with 20 to 22 million people living in Mindanao, the largest island in the country. A troubled peace process. The 1976 Tripoli Agreement between the government and Moro National Liberation Front seemed a breakthrough at the time. The following 2 decades in Western Mindanao and the Solo Archipelago were characterized by low-intensity arms. During the protective period of progress toward peace, followed by developed into violence, relation between civil society and more armed groups underwent process has resulted in significantly enhanced legitimacy and political credibility on the national and the regional stage. And the lesson from the southern Philippines for other peace process in the need to consult extensively with civil society actors to ensure sustainable buy-in from local stakeholders. In this particular important given the risk of widespread loneliness and post-conflict period as government and non-states armed groups relax their authority on the ground.